This is Inspiring Careers with your host, Ingrid Centurion. We're going to talk about fascinating technologies that will impact your future. Meet inspiring entrepreneurs and people that are making huge differences in the community and around the world. We're going to share career and life lessons of inspiration and success. Our mission is to inspire our viewers to make a better life for themselves by sharing our stories, our interviews, and documentaries. Please stay tuned as we have incredible guests coming up. What is food insecurity and what does it look like in Massachusetts? The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, defines food security as a lack of access to enough food for an active, healthy life. Have you ever heard of SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program? Others may know it as the Food Stamp Program. Well, here in Massachusetts, more than 90% of SNAP beneficiaries are seniors, children, or residents with a disability, and more than half of them are living below the poverty line. So I went out to visit a remarkable person that decided to make a difference in the community by making an impact on food security right here in your backyard of Framingham. Welcome, David Blais, to the show.
Thank you.
David, I went out and I saw the great things that you're doing, and I'm so glad you're here in the studio today. So I want to finish our conversation about the effort and the things that you need in continuing to grow Daniel's Table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a newly elected board member.
That's right. You are.
That's right. So I wanted to ask you about that. Is that something that we need to put out there? Are you looking for more board members?
We are. I think we're at 8 or 9 right now, and I think 12 to 15 would probably be the ideal number for us.
So what's the expertise that you need, that you want to bring to the board?
I mean, I think the primary expertise is energy. An interest in making a difference in the community, and whatever your skill is, if it's accounting or it's fundraising or it's just communicating, we can use that skill and to further.
All right, because I want to put that out there. A lot of people are going to watch this video, and we need some board members, and we want to build and have a really great board that gets Daniel's Table moving nationally.
Yep.
So you've been working on an app for a pretty long time now. Can you share some information about the app and what it's going to do for us?
Well, the app is called wevolunteer.org. And really how it came about is I was looking for something that could really connect with the community. I see Framingham as a community that volunteers, that gets involved. And so we needed something that was simple, but something that was comprehensive enough to be able to take in everyone. So the way the program works is that they go to weallvolunteer.org, and as a volunteer, you just fill out your application. You tell us what interests you have. It may be dicing food, it may be accounting, it could be fundraising, any of those types of things. And then on the other side, the organizations are kind of doing the same thing, like the United Way could go on there, and these are the things that I'm looking for, and it matches those two together. How
many other organizations that you have now on your app?
There are 6, we have 6 organizations right now.
What are those?
Let's see, we've got, well, obviously Daniel's Table is on there. Restore, or Habitat for Humanity, is coming on board tomorrow. There's a camp for kids with cancer and their families that's on there. And then one of the Framingham organizations that deals with families and children has come on board, and I would really have to take a look again to see what that.
Excellent.
So
but
it's all.
We're creating synergy within Framingham to end this problem of food insecurity. So that's great. Yeah. And what the app will do is once all the volunteers go on there, it will allow them to support any of these.
That's right.
So we're all contributing to end the problem in.
Right. Yeah, we're hoping that when as we expand it, because it's really built for MetroWest, not just for Framingham, it's all for MetroWest, that we'll have 10 or 20,000 volunteers and maybe 200 service providers all working kind of together.
Right now, you're a small crew.
We're a very small crew.
Right, and so you have volunteers that come out, and I met some of them. They were doing some great stuff.
Yep.
What are some areas that you plan on expanding in the near future?
Well, I think our freezer program is really kind of sits at the core of what we do, and we just see that as the no matter where we go, that it kind of sits at the core of whatever we're doing within the city. So moving it to Ashland or moving it to somewhere else, that's where we would start. We'd start with that freezer program.
And with the freezer program expanding to outside cities, you're going to need drivers and logistics.
Right, exactly. It's the delivery. I'm 63 years old. My wife is doing deliveries, and yeah, it's time for us to pass that on to someone that's a little younger.
So that would be a good board member, someone in the automotive,
That's right.
Logistics area to really grow
Yep.
Daniel's Table.
Yeah. So we kind of looked at this in this way. Let's give ourselves 6 or 7 years. Let's develop the core, and we're there now. We truly believe we've got this hunger thing figured out. Now it's time to just really implement all of the different things that we're doing. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming out today and finishing up this story. Now, who is David and his background? Can you share with us how this started and a little bit of your background and your career before you started doing this great community service?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life, I've always been an entrepreneur. My first business was an arm wrestling championship because I could beat everybody. So I thought that I would just do that, and I wouldn't have to give out the prizes.
Can I see some muscle?
Yeah, I still got some guns. I haven't worked out in a while, but I still got some guns. But it's always been kind of that process. My whole life I've always been kind of a problem solver. So I would look at something and say, okay, I think I can do this better, and then I would just start a company that would do that.
And what kind of companies have you started in the past?
Well, we were in the restaurant business for 14 years. And then we were in publishing for about 12 years prior to that. And prior to that, I used to travel the country as a motivational trainer and speaker. Worked with Tony Robbins, and I designed a clothing line for him. Entrepreneurs, you have your highs and your lows, and we kind of settled into this and really thought that Daniel's Table was going to be something that we would seamlessly add to our lives. We had a restaurant. We thought this would be something we could do part-time. Taking a ride around Framingham, you can see that there's a need there. And being in the food business, it was a natural for us to, okay, what if we just started feeding people? And it wasn't long after we started that over a dinner, I said to Alicia, what if we just solved it? What would it look like if we just solved it? We both started laughing because it's never been done in this country. But then I started looking at and I'm one that always uses comparisons. There's an organization called Mary's Meals. Mary's Meals started with two brothers that rented an old truck and brought food to 200 people in Bosnia that were stuck behind enemy lines. That was 17 years ago. Today they serve 1.5 million meals a day all over the world.
So you have a great big vision for Daniel's Table.
I do, yeah, I mean, but when you look at, when I looked at Framingham, and it's never been done in this country, and there's only 70,000 people in it, of which maybe 7,000 need food, and then you look at Mary's Meals, they're doing 1.5 million meals a day. Framingham's easy. So once I had that focus, I was able to really focus in on Daniel's Table. All right, let's find the model.
One of the things I also read about you is that you do a lot of prayer. And we're actually in this room here that you use. Can you tell me how you use this room?
Well, I mean, I think I have a very, very strong prayer life. This whole building, everything has really been based on prayer and answered prayers specifically.
And I really want to talk about that because there's so many people out there who don't believe in anything.
Right.
And they may not understand even what prayer is. And to have your prayers answered, I want you to share exactly something that happened.
When I signed the lease for this building, I had $20,000 in the bank, knowing it's going to be a $70,000 renovation. I did that on a Tuesday. A Friday afternoon, a gentleman walks into the Foodie Cafe and asks me, hey, can I just talk to you about Daniel's Table? I said, sure. I spent 4 minutes with him. I didn't tell him about the building. I didn't tell him about my need. He wrote me a check for $50,000 and walked out the door.
And you didn't know him?
Didn't know him. And
that is a miracle.
The only other time I've seen him is when he's came here and we dedicated the kitchen to him and his family. But there's another time, which is more, there's some humor in it because Daniel's Table had $8 in the account. In our account, we had $8. And so I'm going to go out to have a conversation with God because he doesn't seem to be keeping up his end of the bargain. So I'm outside praying and about this whole thing, and I lift my head up and a car pulls up. And 2 nuns get out of the car and they have a check for me for $30 and said, they came from Boston, this is all we had, I'd like to give this to you. Within 6 weeks, we had $60,000 unsolicited that just people were coming into the cafe and dropping off, like someone did, $5,000 in cash here. And it has been a constant, for the past 5 or 6 years, that just time after time after. I've been in and out of my faith my whole life. Very strong in my 20s, kind of walked away from it until my 50s. But in this, I don't know how you'll share this on TV or if you will, but what the breakthrough was for me is I started going back to church and I joined a small group and I did all of these things that were very church-like. But I still felt there was a hole and I just wasn't connecting in the way that I felt that I should. And so one Thursday afternoon, for some reason, our restaurant was closed. I don't remember why, or may have been later in the afternoon. I went into a room, and for 3.5 hours, I wrote down every single sin I had ever committed in my life from the age of 5. Some of them were silly. Some of them would make you sick.
This was your confession sheet.
This was it was 5 pages of small handwriting.
Really small so nobody could read it.
Right, and then so what happened is then I took those and I brought every single one individually to God and said, I get it, because sometimes you carry your past with you, even though we're taught in our faith that everything is forgiven, you still carry it.
That's right.
And so what it really did for me is it cleaned the slate. And I can literally say that when I was done, it was as if God grabbed me in a bear hug and has never let go in 6 years. And so all of a sudden my prayer life, which was hit or miss, I guess, was no longer a miss. If I ask for something, it shows up. And it's been like that for 6 years.
Wow.
That's why I may wake up in the morning at 3 in the morning panicking a little bit, or how are we going to pay the bills? But during the day, I don't even worry about it. We rent this out to churches and to other organizations, but primarily to churches, and because we believe that organizations should focus on becoming as self-funding as they possibly can. The potential of kitchen is 1.6 million meals a year. That's the potential of it. That is running 24 hours a day, packing and all of those types of things. It's 1.6.
And how did you lay out the design?
Oh, just we had to use what was in the building. We had to use the rooms because taking down walls and all of those types of things would have just created more and more challenges. Just actually kind of sauteing some kale that we'll start mixing with other things like ham and those types of things, and just this will be part of something that we will package either as a soup or as a meal. Every Saturday we make sandwiches for the homeless. So it's a sandwich, it's a juice, it's some fruit, different things like that. And then we have one street minister that takes these out into downtown Framingham and the area and just distributes that on Saturday mornings for us. This is really where we started. November of 2012, we were making 50 sandwiches for the homeless, and it really kind of grew from there.
Wow, incredible. How many volunteers do you have?
I think on our list is about almost 80, but really we probably have 20. So these ovens here, there are 4 ovens here, can cook 64 chickens at a time. It takes about 45 minutes. So in the course of an 8-hour day, we can cook hundreds of chickens. This is our storage area. We don't have a very large storage area because we don't really distribute a lot of canned goods. Even out of what you see here, that number of 1.6 is possible, but we just don't use a lot of dry goods. Everything is fresh. I mean, what would normally go into a freezer is we put soups, we put pasta sauces, we put proteins, we put vegetables. Like this is a teriyaki garlic with it's ground beef and pork with veggies, and then fresh tomato sauce made from tomatoes. We cook them in our kitchen there, and then a chunky chicken soup. And so what happens is people can come up they have their ID, they come up to the freezer, they show the ID to the person at the front desk, they go back and they get meals that they need for them.
We try and do something educational at each one of the farmers markets. So today we were just encouraging people to take some of the vegetables that are there, that they can cook them and put them in red sauce and blend them so the kids can get vegetables just in a red sauce. And so then we have a sample of it.
Oh.
So we try, or if there's like a food that we feel might be unfamiliar to people, we try and show how to prepare it.
Right, so
Otherwise,
it's good,
people don't
healthy.
take things because
right.
they don't, it's like, I don't know what to do with that. You know,
Exactly.
spaghetti squash, how do you cook that? Or acorn squash, butternut squash. A lot of the squashes people aren't that familiar with. So anytime we have something that's a little unfamiliar or a way that we encourage people to get healthy food into their families, we try to do a little demo and a little tasting.
Okay, good.
I kind of work a little bit of all the areas wherever it's needed, but my main focus is taking care of the freezer program and doing these the open markets that we do on Fridays and once a month on Saturdays. The once a month Saturday is a total open market, and it's very big. The Friday is for people that have come in, they have filled out a form and come for 8 visits any way that they choose to take them. They can come once a week, once a month. At the end of 8 weeks, it's not see you later, goodbye, but it's let's relook at where you're at, what your situation is. Started speaking at the high school in different classes so that the kids can learn a little bit more about food and that they can get it here if they need to. So we're hoping to continue with educational things. Like tonight we're doing an event, it's an outdoor event, so we always have something for the kids to learn something about food and health. Tonight they're learning how to make stuffed apples as a dessert. So tonight they'll core an apple, they'll fill it with cranberries or dried cherries, a little cinnamon sugar, then they'll bake them. So we just try and give a hands-on example of an educational.
We All Volunteer does. It's just, it connects people to their interests. So, they're filling out a form saying, I'm interested in web design or social media, and if a service provider needs that, it'll connect those two people.